Hey guys, Nick here, and welcome back to another Supergirl episode review. My thoughts on tonight's episode of Supergirl, which is part one of the 4-part crossover titled Medusa. And as you guys know, this will be all week DC crossover TV. So we got Supergirl, Flash, Arrow, Legend of Tomorrow, all shows which I will be reviewing this week. Obviously starting off with Supergirl. And this episode, while it is technically part one, it had almost nothing to do with the crossover event, except for, Barry and Cisco showing up at the end of the episode. But honestly, I thought it was a great episode nonetheless, and honestly, I thought it was one of my favorite episodes of the show so far. And just to kick off what I liked about it, honestly, I love just the whole, you felt there was a real threat to everyone in this episode. Between, John Jones dealing with the whole White Martian transformation thing from previous episodes with McGann giving him her White Martian blood. You got Supergirl dealing with Lena Luthor and Cadmus, and Cadmus, dispersing the Medusa, virus onto the National City populace, and you're dealing with a lot more of Lena Luthor's backstory and dealing with her dynamic with her mom, and dealing with a little more of Mon-El and him kind of starting to step up despite being weakened for a good portion of the episode by the Medusa thing. And again, just a lot of great action between the fight between Martian Manhunter and Hank Henshaw, which I thought was a really cool fight. Again, seeing a lot more of Cyborg Superman, and they honestly have huge plans for this character because every time they have a huge fight, he manages to sneak away. Especially at the end of this episode when Liliana Luthor is captured, and Lena, who I think more. I've said this before. I kind of don't want her to be a villain, and in this episode when she had that whole fake out thing of her, turning on her mom and pretending that she was siding with her. I kind of saw that coming from a mile away, but at the same time, I'm like, for a second, I kind of believed it, and I'm like, oh, I swear to God, that is the quickest turn I've ever seen since episode 3 of Revenge of the Sith, when Anakin automatically becomes Darth Vader. But then they didn't do that, so they kept her as a good character, at least for the time being. I don't mind her being a villain in the long run, but right now I do like having her as an ally to Supergirl and the DEO, because the actress, I think she does a really great job as Lena Luthor. She's almost she's starting out almost like the reverse of how Tess Mercer started in Smallville, where she started out as the bad guy and then became a good guy. I feel like with Lena, even though I don't want her to be a bad guy, she's gonna eventually become a bad guy, because I just think with these shows and these writers being the way they are, I think that's ultimately where they're gonna end up. I'm not gonna necessarily complain as long as they handle it well and it's not forced and it's not rushed. I'll be happy with it. I of course seeing Helen Slater back in this episode, the actress who plays Supergirl back in the 80s. Seeing her again was great in all of her scenes with Kara and Alex. Then Alex, having in another Thanksgiving episode, having to tell something to her mom. This time it being a huge thing, with her being gay. And when the moment finally comes for Alex to come out to her mom, because her mom kind of brings it up when Maggie is shot. This show has handled Alex coming out as gay, I think, really, really well. There are a lot of people who think it's stupid and it's PC. And honestly, if you're one of those people, honestly, don't even watch my review, because honestly, I think you're all ignorant, and I think you guys don't even know what pandering, and you guys even know what people who think that they're pushing a PC agenda, or a liberal agenda. And it's honestly, get over yourself. It's television. There are gay people in the real world. Accept it. Deal with it. Otherwise, just move on with your life. So that's where in the show, I think they've handled it really, really well. There was a couple times where I felt like it was a little rushed, but at the same time, it feels like a natural romance. It doesn't feel too forced to me, unlike other romances in the CW shows, like Oliver and Felicity, and Barry and Patty Spivot last year on The Flash, and Kara and Mon-El, which I'll get to a little later. But I think how they've handled Alex and Maggie overall, I think, has been really good. And it feels like a real relationship, and that's why at the end of this episode, when because of her getting shot and thinking she was gonna die, Maggie kind of came to the realization that she was just afraid of her own emotions and afraid of being hurt and getting too attached to someone. And that's where with Alex, Maggie allowed Alex to kind of accept her, not come out necessarily for Maggie, but to come out for herself and kind of realize who she really is and accept herself for who she really is. And I thought that was a great thing to have in this episode. I mean, you have all this one of the things I love about this episode was, you get all the superhero action shots, but at the same time, it's the emotional backbone of the story is Alex and Maggie's relationship and how that's developed, and it's a real emotional thing that I thought they've handled really well. And other than, Kara and Mon-El, I think there's nothing wrong with this episode. Even the Kara and Mon-El thing, I'll just go ahead and bring up since I keep subtly bringing it up. You guys know I have not been on the bandwagon of, I think Kara and Mon-El should be together. I think it's a terrible, terrible, terrible idea because they spent a whole season teasing Kara and James to toss it away in the first episode, and now they bring in this fucking generic white actor who's, honestly, he's playing one of the most boring characters I've ever seen. Like, Mon-El, I guess he was the most likable in this episode. However, that does not mean I like the character. Doesn't mean I want to see the character. Especially, I don't want to see him with Kara, because I saw it coming from a mile away. I don't want it at all. It's not gonna last. I don't want it. It's so forced. It's like, you don't have to have Kara in a stupid relationship that honestly that fans didn't even really want. Like, I don't know why they're doing it, because it's the fucking CW and everyone has to be in a fucking stupid relationship, and it's just so infuriating that they do this stuff all the time. Just like, you can have main characters not be in a relationship. You can do that. Like, yes, it's awesome having Alex and Maggie and having first of all, a person of color being with a white person and have them both be gay. That's amazing. That's great, and I'm glad they're doing that. I'm tired of seeing boring ass white couples on the CW. I'm so sick and fucking tired of it. And that's why I hated Barry and Patty Spivot and being together in The Flash. That's why I hate Oliver and Felicity in Arrow as a couple, not the characters. Even though I didn't care, I fucking hate Felicity, and I couldn't stand Patty Spivot last year on The Flash. And Mon-El is that character for me. I don't know why they feel the need to do this forced romance bullshit. And I'm sorry if that offends anyone. I hate it. Hate it. Like, Kara has way more romantic chemistry with Lena Luthor. I'm way down for that. Like, have her explore her sexuality. Maybe they'll even do that down the line. But don't have her be in a boring-ass relationship with Mon-El. And I know that's what they're fucking feeding down their throats, with the kiss tonight. And then, like, oh, like, what happened when I was, when I was asleep? And she's like, oh, you don't remember? We kissed? It's just, I'm sorry if I went on a little bit of a rant. I apologize again if I made anyone mad. It's just, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of boring white straight couples on TV. Because between all the DC shows, with Arrow, Flash, and Arrow, Flash, and Supergirl, like, they've all had that boring ass relationship. Oliver and Felicity on Arrow, of course, and all the other ones I've mentioned. And I'm just sick and tired of it. Give me something new. Give me something that's not forced white boring ass couples. Just give me something like Alex and Maggie, like a new, different, a diverse kind of thing. Like, stop. Like, there's more to do than make your lead character be in a relationship with someone, especially someone who's not even that great of a character, or have an actor who's even that great of an actor. So those are just my 2 cents on that whole thing. I apologize if I kind of went off on a rant a little bit. Now, to get back to things I actually did enjoy about this episode, even though I just kind of finish my thoughts on that real quick. Again, I know I'm kind of overreacting because it was just a kiss and it wasn't meaning that they're going to be together, but it's just, I don't want that from this show. They can be friends. I don't mind them being friends or allies. I've said that in the past. If they're just friends and he's an ally and it's like, after it was just this one thing and then they realize that it's not going to work out, great, awesome. Like, that's fine with me. Mon-El, they can make him a better character on his own without having him pine for Kara and do all this stupid stuff. But I want more from this show than just another boring white couple. So those are my 2 thoughts, my 2 cents on that. Again, going back to what I liked about this episode. I liked, seeing the Fortress of Solitude again. They're showing it more and more, it seems like. It's funny, like, we keep going back to the Fortress of Solitude, and we're going back to it now that, we don't have Superman around. And, you can see the Fortress of Solitude was cool, and I like how we got to see a little bit in last week's episode with Cyborg Superman. And Cyborg Superman, this episode was heavily featured, because I feel like at the end of the day, he's going to be one of the big bads of the season, and it's going to ultimately come down to him versus John Jones. I think that's going to be an amazing fight, because they already kind of teased that earlier on in the episode. That I'm really excited for, and I like, Kara kind of dealing with the fact that, her dad kind of helped create Medusa when she was talking to his consciousness in the Fortress of Solitude. And just, Kara, I like how they treat her character sometimes. Like, Kara sometimes has so much of the world on her shoulders, and she kind of has to act like nothing's wrong and everything is okay, and then something hits her that makes her kind of like question, what does it mean to kind of be who she is? Like, her parents did some shady things, and so there's some people in her life that aren't exactly who she thought they were. But I do like how they have handled her characterization throughout the show. And in tonight's episode, when she was kind of dealing with, hey, like, my parents did this, when she was talking to Lena, and Lena first was kind of like, totally against the idea of her mom even doing anything remotely bad, even though Lena didn't trust her mom to begin with. I did like her having that kind of like a realization that, hey, like, her parents, weren't who she thought they were. And that's kind of like a self-realization that, like, I think we all kind of have at some point. So that was kind of like a real emotional moment for her to have, and I liked how it was handled. What else? And I did like, like Kara and all of her scenes with Lena in this episode, and her trying to interview Lena to get information on her mother earlier on in the episode. And then, you find out more of Lena's backstory as, we see the scenes with Lena and her mom. And then, with that scene towards the end of the episode when, like, Lena turns out that she called the police, and then she, changed the antidote, or changed the thing for or the isotope for the Medusa virus thing. And she ended up being more of a heroic character, and that's what I'm excited to see in her character moving forward. And I liked how in this episode they kind of wrapped up the White Martian thing kind of quickly, because sometimes like these shows introduce plot lines that just kind of drag. The White Martian thing, I wasn't quite sure what they were going to do with it. And this episode, for that last bit of the fight when John Jones kind of becomes a White Martian to beat Hank Henshaw, I thought that was cool. And but also I like how they were able to wrap that storyline, and he's kind of back to being the Martian Manhunter we all know and love. What else? I feel like because I'm sorry if I'm looking off screen. I'm like looking at the notes I took throughout the episode. I feel like I brought a lot of the stuff I felt up. I did look like I like how this episode set up a potentially new set of villains. With the aliens that are tracking down Mon-El. I wonder who they're gonna be. I have no idea honestly who they could possibly be, because like I'm not as aware of like the extraterrestrial aspect of DC Comics beyond Krypton and the Green Lantern Corps. So I don't know what potential villains are on the way to Supergirl, and I'm excited for it. And of course, with this being technically part one of the part one crossover, of course I have to talk about the scene with Barry and Cisco coming down and saying, Kara, we need your help. And that was a cool like reintroduction for Barry and Kara to kind of have a bit of a reunion, because I loved the crossover last year, and I'm excited for what they're going to do with Supergirl in the next few episodes of the crossovers this week. And I think Kara and Barry have such a cool dynamic on the show, and they're so much like each other. So that's why I like their friendly dynamic. I didn't want to see it be like romantic or anything, but I do like seeing their dynamic, and I'm like having her finally meet Cisco. And obviously they're gonna pick up right on it with next week's or tomorrow night's episode of Flash. So yeah, again, I kind of wish that this was more of the crossover and not so much a Supergirl episode. But I'm glad we did get the episode we did, because I still think it was a great episode nonetheless. And I'm kind of glad they put aside the whole Guardian storyline this week, and they'll save it for like the following week. And because I think they teased last week that this was going to be the episode with them kind of going after Guardian, but I guess that's going to be next week's episode. But this episode I thought again was a whole lot of fun, and it had a great storyline throughout, especially with Alex and Maggie, who've really been the heart and soul of this season. I feel like for me. Again, despite my issues with Kara and Mon-El, the action was great. You felt there was a real threat, especially with all the aliens dying in the beginning. It was a great setup for hopefully a really great crossover. And yeah, so those are my thoughts on tonight's episode of Supergirl. What did you guys think? What were your guys' expectations for this episode? Were they met? Do you guys have any problems with the episode? Sound your thoughts in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for every other video I'm going to be putting up this week, for all the other DC shows between Flash, Arrow, yes Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow. So you guys check my channel out throughout the week for any updates on those videos, and all my other videos, movie reviews, trailer reviews, anything else up on my channel. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and until tomorrow, have a good one.